Hello, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Daily, presented to you by FanArch. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, author of The Voices of Hockey. Broadcasters reflect on the fastest game on earth, and coming to you from the southwest corner of Washington State, 2,454 miles from Little Caesars Arena. What a game last night, folks. No, we did not walk away with 2 points and a win. We walked away with one, a shootout loss, but I was very entertained. I was at least a little bit, at the very least, I was relieved that we walked away with at least a point. It seemed like we were only going to, get a regulation loss out of it, 0 on it, but they proved us wrong. And started off the game 3 or 4 minutes in. Here we are on a power play, and Kane basically sets to brink it up for a sweet one-timer goal, assist to Kane. Freebird starts playing on the stereo. The camera pans to the Kane family in the crowd, son and father, mom and girlfriend, and everybody's ready and cheering. Here he is alone at the top of the pile of American-born players as far as points go. And guess what? The eye in the sky says, "No, sir," and issues a challenge, and the challenge basically overturns the goal. It was offsides. So we have to holster that celebration and see if we can do it a little bit later in the game. In the meantime, Dowd scores a goal, so we have this 2-goal swing. They go from being down 1 to us to up 1 over us. So that's the way the score would stand until the second period, when Kane is in on the assist to Benny for a snipe. Pretty deep snipe. Pretty great goal. 1-1. There we are, .1375. We do it all over again. We pan over to the Kane family in the crowd. Everybody's cheering. Freebird's playing. And there we go. It's official. This one's not going to get called back. So here he is at 1375. I think they wait till the next kind of stop in the action before they go up to the Jumbotron and show a video of Mike Modano congratulating him on his feat. So there we are. It is 1-1. Well, the third period would be quite the roller coaster for both teams. The Caps got out to a 2-1 lead because of Strome. And I had mentioned Strome yesterday, and so my good jinx did us wrong. I'm going to stop talking about our future opponents and who is due for a point, and just relegate it to who is due for a point on ours, because I'm tired of saying somebody's offensively and then they score pretty much the next game. So he got one, Chisholm got the other, and now we're looking at a 3-1 deficit in the third period. People start going up the exits. The lower bowl is looking red, but it's not looking as red as it would be with red sweaters in the seats. So it's looking pretty bad, looking like another regulation loss, especially after Tuesdays to the Kings. And who comes along but DeBrincat, scoring goals number 29 and 30. Goal number 30 is one of the weirdest goals I think I have seen in a long time. It looked like he was just trying to get it, slap it around the boards or whatever. He fired it off the glass, smacks the camera well or whatever. It's not camera well, but it's like a camera hidey hole, I want to call it. If you look at it, it's seriously like a plain little thing that you would be at a speakeasy and the guy just pushes aside password. But obviously everything's transparent, and smacks off that, catch is lingering off guard, and the puck gets past him, and all of a sudden we're tied, and this is overtime's forced. Nobody scores in overtime. We go to 3 shots. It only takes 3 shots each for the shootout to be conclusive. They got all 3 of their shots in. We got 2, our first 2 in, and then it went bar down on Larkin on the third attempt. They come back for their third attempt, get it. They get the shootout win. Gibby walks away with a shootout loss. And here we are, 32, 16, and 6 on the season. Now, with our 1 point and with Tampa Bay's regulation win, they basically, who had already been, up a point on us, now they're up 2 on us in the Atlantic. So we're in second in the Atlantic with them having 3 games in hand, and we're down 2 points to them. Not too bad. Like I said, it's one of those games where you don't dwell too much on the loss. Maybe look at the positive that you still walked away with a point. I will say there's some holes and things they came out with an intensity though. They were saying it all throughout the night. You know, one of the things that John Buccigross kept quoting is that I think it was Wilson, who I can't stand. I already told you guys this. This is no news, but you know, I think Wilson basically said this is our most important game of the season. I think what they said was before everything finished, they were 9 points out of a playoff spot, and that's pretty deep to be, especially for a team like the Capitals. They're expected to be a little bit closer than that. So they were playing hungry. They were throwing some hits at us. Ovi was even throwing some hits. So when Ovi's throwing hits like that and he's kind of lowering his shoulder and doing what he can and getting his hands dirty, that's when you know that they are throwing down their own gauntlet towards themselves and saying, look, we got to turn this around if we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to start it right here. Game 6 of our 6-game road trip, we're 1-3-1. Let's end it 2-3-1 and go home heroes. Well, that's basically what they did. But like I said, I'm not too, down about it. It could have been worse. It could have been a regulation loss, and it could have been a real spirit breaker. For us to basically have that kind of theatrics late in the game, especially with Colorado coming up, that's good to me to walk away from before we play Saturday. So, congratulations to Kane. You know, obviously at the top of the summit right now. It's very cute watching his kid. His kid, Trick, is so cute. And I love how they always refer to him, how he's kind of starting to give his dad crap just the same way that Grandpa gives Patrick the third's grandpa gives Kaner crap when he's, maybe getting in a little bit of a cold spell and not able to get over this hump. He's gotten over the 2 humps that we've all been talking about. The monkey is off his back. He still is on his 500th goal. He hasn't scored 501, but he's got that, milestone passed, and he's got this milestone passed. So I think he's got a pretty clear road ahead of him, and see how he can really just play without these distractions now, and just see which gears he starts throwing it in as the season starts to wind down. Now, last night was kind of an interesting night, because tonight there's only one game on the whole NHL slate. There was plenty of games last night, and so it's being Friday, it's time for Free for All Friday. And for this episode, we're going to talk about coffee being for closers or eventual closers. The reason I say eventual closers is because some of the guys didn't close last night, and some did. Here's the first team that didn't close, and that was the Utah Mammoth, and they had a 2-goal lead in Carolina with like under 2 minutes left in the third period. And not only did Carolina tie it, but they went ahead with like 30 seconds left. So, the Mammoth had what looked like a surefire 2 points, and only ended up with not one. They ended up with 0, because they couldn't even basically hold out the last 30 seconds of the third after they had blown the save. And they go away with a 5-4 loss in regulation, 0 points. No coffee for you, Mammoth. Other game, San Jose Sharks up 3 goals on Edmonton. And Edmonton scores 3 straight, including a goal with about 59 seconds left in the third period to force overtime. Bouchard got the goal to tie it. He got the assist on the overtime winner. So San Jose went from a sure 2 points to just 1 point. Coffee does not go your way. It goes to Edmonton for getting it done. And basically, as a result of that, Edmonton and Golden Knights losing in the shootout basically are tied with each other atop the Pacific Division. Now, the Golden Knights is another one of those coffees is for closers, because the Stars had a lead on them late. They scored. Golden Knights scored with less than a minute to go in the third period to force overtime. Ended up losing in the shootout. Robertson and Rantanen both got goals, and the Knights really didn't even have to do the third shot, because they had 2 to their 0 basically, and so it was over. No need for a third inning. At least the bottom of the third inning wasn't happening. So Stars, you get your coffee because you eventually close that game. The other game we just talked about, obviously our game against Washington, even though you guys blew the save, you still walked away with the 2, so you get your coffee as well. So Stars get the coffee, Caps get the coffee. And let's see. San Jose does not get the coffee, and neither do the Utah Mammoth, which is interesting because Utah and San Jose were basically seeds 7 and 8. These kinds of loss of point, and for Utah, the loss of 2 points, this may be one of those moments they look back on later in the season if they're right outside the playoff bubble. So, like Alec Baldwin says in Glengarry Glen Ross, this is going to be the second time that I've quoted that movie. I know a lot of you might not even know that movie. David Mamet screenplay. Obviously belongs on the stage on Broadway or something like that, but they made a movie out of it. And Alec Baldwin, in all his 6 minutes of screen time on it, had one of the most legendary phrases ever: "Coffee is for closers." And there was a couple non-closers last night and a couple of closers. Looking forward to this weekend, actually over the next 2 games, but we'll have a little bit of a preview of Monday's game on Monday's show. But first things first, Saturday's game is going to be at LCA. It's our last home game before the Olympic break. It's against the Colorado Avalanche. Now, these 2 games on this schedule have been things I've been dreading for weeks because Colorado, despite all their losses right now, they still have 35 wins. And I believe they have 79 points. And we're at 70 right now. Colorado, though, is 2-4-2 in their last 8 games. So to me, this is a little bit of bright light of hope because I feel like we're playing a lot better than a 2-4-2, obviously. I think we're 6-2-2 in our last 10. But Colorado, these 4 losses of these 8, these haven't been 1-goal losses. These have been like 3 or more goal losses. Preds, Flyers, Sens, and Habs over those 4 losses, including last night's loss to Montreal. And Wedgwood, usually their go-to guy and usually their, good old faithful. He just had a kid, so congratulations to him. But I think he might have the yips, folks, because man, oh man, I have him on my fantasy team, and I'm pretty sure he got me negative 10 points. It would have been better if I didn't play him. It'd have been better if I cut him and then got him off the waiver wire. But still, Colorado is not clicking on all cylinders. Hopefully that continues as they play the Red Wings in LCA on Saturday. I think we're the advantage. I was looking at the stats, on the game, and the advantage on all these, except for power play, the advantage went towards Colorado. That's for offense, defense, and shots on goal. But these stats are collective over, the 54 or 55 game sampling of the season. Not necessarily like the last 8 to 10 or 15 games, because Gibby, you're going to look at his GAA, and it's probably over the whole season is, I would say, a good quarter to maybe 0.4 goals, non-representative of how he's doing right now. So I feel it's fortunate. Hopefully we can make the most of it and really not be good hosts to them and take care of them at home, and maybe even take care of them in Colorado. Hopefully this string of poor performances will continue, and we can find a way to wake up our offense and get 2 points on Saturday and maybe even another 2 points on Monday in the Rocky Mountains. Well, to wrap up the show, all I want to do is talk a little bit about the 4th line, specifically Elmer, Soderblom, and Big Rass and Appleton basically are our 4th line offense right there. And it's been pretty abysmal. Looking at it right now, I'm spotlighting Elmer. He's playing like an elder. Elmer is, he had a few hits last night, so that's why I kind of want to give him a hey attaboy, because the Capitals out-hit us double. I think it was 26-13. Elmer had the most hits on the team. Even Ovechkin was throwing hits at us last night. This was one of those games, like I said, probably mentioned. John Buccigross definitely mentioned it so much that there was like, this was a must win, like do or die kind of situation. So everybody was throwing hits last night. Well, Elmer threw a few hits, so that's one of those positive lights I'll give to him. But the fourth line right now, he hasn't scored a point in 12 games. What's even worse, though, is that Appy hasn't scored a goal or a point in 14 games. So we got between Elmer and Appy, that's 12 and 14 games without a point. And also on that line is Big Rass. And it looks like Big Rass hasn't had a point in 11 games. So that fourth line is starting to look like the fourth floor on Parks and Rec, where basically it's no man's land right now. And we're hoping that that might change. Obviously, a fourth line is not always necessarily, unless you're talking about the 95-96 Red Wings or some of those other teams where, goals were definitely not at a premium and they were just dishing them out like candy. But still, when you've gone that many games without a single point between the three of you, you're really hoping to just change it, turn the page, turn a corner, whatever you need to do, start getting on the offensive side again. So here's to hoping that this good jinx will go their way over the weekend when they play Colorado. Maybe I'll be the good jinx right there. If all three of those guys end up basically factoring in on a point, on a goal, those two assist, and basically one of them gets the goal and the other two get the primary and secondary assist, then I definitely am the good jinx of this team. But still, Monday's show, we'll talk about Saturday's game. Should be a good one. We'll talk a little bit more about the upcoming schedule as well. We got 3 more games left on the slate before we have the Olympic break. And I don't even, break the skin on the possible, market for us. I do feel like with Big Ed's being on the IR now and with some of these holes starting to show and be more exploited in our defense, I do feel like basically before that trade freeze heads up, before the Olympic break, we may be making a move probably for Dougie Hamilton or Justin Falk. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it happened over the weekend. Try to get it done and get a couple of games in with these guys before we all are off on our little 2.5 week hiatus. In the meantime, this has been Red Wings Daily. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight. Again, check out the Voices of Hockey. Broadcasters reflect on the fastest game on earth on Audible. 12 hours of insanity read to you by Chuck Bowler. Not by me. You get me 15 minutes, you get him 12 hours. But check it out. And for now, LGRW from the PNW.